Okay. Good morning. For the record, I'm Chris Young, Chair of the HDC's SAC. Let's confirm access. Members, please respond with an aye. We have Ben Norman. Kevin Kuster.
Aye.
Paul Wolf.
Aye.
And for staff, Esmeralda Martinez. I believe we see you there. This open meeting of the HDC's SAC is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. That order, posted with the agenda materials for the meeting, allows public bodies to convene remotely so long as public access to deliberations is reasonably provided. This meeting is convening via Zoom with video and audio recording available on the town's YouTube channel. We will feature public comment. Materials provided to members during the meeting or provided during the meeting will be available on the town's website. During the meeting, I'll introduce agendas and topics and speakers. Please remember to mute your Zoom audio until your name is called and direct comments through the chair to avoid the crosstalk and taking of minutes easier. Lastly, votes will be conducted by roll call. With that said, let's move on to the meeting. Call the meeting to order at 9:05 on May 23rd, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
So move. Second.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, moved by Kevin, seconded by Paul. Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
All right, thank you, guys. I don't believe we have minutes. I apologize if I'm over.
Nope, no minutes yet, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, okay. Thank you. So we'll move on to public comment. Is anybody on the line to make public comments not related to any applications? Seeing nobody, we'll go to commissioners' comments. Any general comments from the commissioners?
Nope.
All right, let's move on to new business. We have an application from St. Paul's Church. Is anybody on the line representing that application?
Libby Tracy from the church was trying to log in. I don't know if she was successful. I don't see her on the line. She was having trouble earlier, but she was trying to be here for this
Okay, so
application. We have not received anything new from them. They were supposed to submit new revisions or
okay, why don't we move them down on the agenda then, just in case she's able to log in, and we'll move on to Kara. Has a couple applications here for 12 Main Street. Kara, do you want to start out with your master sign plan?
Yes. So the sign is for David Buckley's law practice, which is upstairs in that building. There previously had always been that sign for Nantucket Learning Center, I think it was called, or tutoring center, but it was taken down this winter when Callista submitted a new sign plan for her space, so that got left off somehow.
Okay, so you're basically just, the first application is to present the master sign plan for 12
Yes.
Main Street,
So I've just added
including
the sign.
existing signage plus that.
Yeah, I added this to the existing sign plan.
Okay, thanks. Let me go around the board. We'll do Paul, Kevin, Ben. So Paul, I'm gonna start out.
No questions. No problem.
Okay, Kevin.
I don't see anything that indicates lighting for any of these. I know there's one of them coming up later. What do we know about that?
Lighting
Yeah,
for David Buckley or for the other people?
for all these other signs on
I
the
mean, I know
master
there's
plan.
some big lights for Callista right now. There, I don't know if they were approved or not. But I don't think there's any lighting here or needed.
Okay, I'm not aware of, I guess. I'd be curious to know what that all is, because I know there's probably some businesses in there that are not open past sunset. Anyway, that's my comment.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Okay.
may,
Yes, thanks. Yeah.
there is a lighting application that the HDC it was on their agenda, but they referred it back to you guys for you to review, which is
Okay,
also for
and-
12. Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, why don't we look at that as part of this review?
Okay, which is for 12 Main Street, Callista West.
Okay. And is this in place, Kevin? Is that what you were thinking? That you've seen these up?
I believe so. I'm a little confused as to if we're going to approve a master sign plan, if we're also approving lighting for all these signs. I think this is the one that is up and that is.
Okay. Got it. So that's an interesting point. I don't think we've ever really, I'd have to read the sign book again to see what it says about the master sign plan and lighting, because lighting is specific to the business's hours of operation. So I guess a master sign plan couldn't be aware of what businesses are going to be in place years to come. But I do see what you're saying. We should kind of look at this together. But we do have an application for the lights separately, which I think is probably the appropriate way to view it, since it's specific to that business and their hours of operation according to the way lights are defined or allowed. So let's get the sign sizes and locations taken care of with the master sign plan, and then we can deal with Callista West as a separate application. Does that make sense? Okay. So regarding the master sign plan, you don't have any other comments, Kevin?
Not that I can quickly come up with. I assume you've checked the sizes.
Sizes are appropriate.
Okay. No, I'm good.
Okay, Ben?
Yeah, it looks fine. I'm good.
Okay.
Maybe we could just quickly see exactly where they're going. I know
Sure.
it's-
You want to scroll through, Esmeralda? So most of them are in place,
Okay.
right? So we have the Blue Beetle, which are in place. That's the new sign that we'll be seeing next, I believe. So sign A exists. That's B. C exists and D exists.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Audrey.
Would somebody like to make a motion on the master sign plan?
Move approval.
I'll second
Anybody
that.
wants- Thanks, Ben. Kevin, are you in favor?
Yes.
Okay, and Paul
Yes,
and Ben?
Yeah, aye.
Yeah, okay. I am as well, so thank you for that, Kara. Now, let's take a look at the law office sign. And so we need to see the new application. Yes, Kara would just. The size isn't located, isn't indicated here, Kara. What's the size of the sign?
Oh, the size is, sorry, it's not on there. 26 by 10.
Okay, that's
I don't know
definitely
how that got
within
left
our,
out there.
yeah, within our guidelines for sure. So why don't we go, Kevin, Ben, Paul. Kevin,
I guess two questions is that the painted edge just painted, or is that also, I can't tell if that's a frame or just painted.
I believe that I always would do the side white because I think that's what you like, right? A different color on the side, or is the border sufficient to make it the side blue?
That's sufficient for me. I just wasn't
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, I think the side would look better blue,
Okay.
looking at it with the line
The
there.
other question I have goes back to lighting. I see none on the application, but I see it lighting proposed on the photograph. And I don't believe that this would be a business that would qualify for lighting.
That's already there.
No, I understand it's already there, but I don't think it should be approved for this business.
So we would need to take the light off.
In my opinion, but it's okay. That's all.
Okay, we'll go down the board.
Does he need to
Ben?
take the light off or
Oh.
just not turn it on at night?
I'm ready to go. I think I can answer.
Oh, go,
Carol's
yeah, Ben, go ahead and speak.
Yeah, I'm fine with the sign. I think it looks great. I think with the lighting, I know I work next to a lawyer in my building here and he meets all the time, evenings, whatever. I think lights are allowable when the business is in operation. So, I think, if he's having a meeting at 4 o'clock in the winter, he should be allowed to put his light on. So, I'm fine with the light. I think it just needs to be, off. It can only be on during the hours of operation. I think that's our standpoint. So.
That's a
All
nice
right,
AC unit.
Paul.
I agree, excuse me, I agree with Ben, and I think the sign is fine. But I agree with Ben's comments about the lights.
Okay. Yeah, I think that it's fair to say when the business is in operation after hours, these lights that are already there can be used. So, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
All right, thanks. Kevin, are you in favor?
I
And Paul
aye,
and Ben?
Aye.
All right, great. Thanks, Kara. And so for Callista West, Kara, you representing this one too?
I am not.
Okay. Is anyone on the line for this? Heather? Okay.
I don't see them, Mr. Chairman.
Well, look, then, in the interest of, since there's nobody representing that, I'm gonna bump that down to the bottom as well. Let's go to 29 Center Street. Have Kara introduce us to this projecting sign.
So this sign is, they're adding another business to inside the store. Originally, they had wanted a hanging sign below it, which I was told would not be approved. So, and this was preferred. So it's blue and it's like 2 different shades of navy blue.
Okay, and what was the existing sign?
The existing
it-
sign is the same without the bottom part.
Okay, it's all blue with the for now, with no border on it, or is there a border?
I believe it has a white side border, but
Okay.
the sign is being repainted, so it can be whatever color you'd like it to be.
Okay. So why don't we go Kevin, Paul, Ben?
Is the graphic that's up there now what you're
It just says
proposing?
for now, it just says for now, and
Right.
now it
But I'm
says
look-
for now, and they're adding Chappie Wrap.
Okay, what I'm looking at is the for now seems to be centered in the overall space, but not centered.
Yeah,
in
no,
its-
that's a mistake. That'll be centered on the centered.
Okay, got it. There we go. Okay, thank you. I'd like to see some sort of a border. Other than that, I'm okay with the sign.
Okay, we can put a white border there.
And you're saying painting the edge of the board white, meaning the side of it, or you would putting a
And
border.
you want edge
as in, like,
banding
just-
or an additional border?
Personally, I think that putting a little bit of white on the face helps create the frame that is the
Mm-hmm.
intention of not having the signs bleed personally, but
Yep.
is that
I
what you
agree.
meant by that, Kevin? Okay,
Yeah, I agree.
okay. Paul?
Excuse me, no further comments.
All right, thanks, Ben.
Yep, nothing to add.
Okay. And need a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve with a white border applied into the face of the sign,
Okay,
both sides.
I'll second that.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Aye.
And Paul,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
great. Thanks, Kara.
okay, thank you.
All right, we have 33 Main Street, is that right? Yeah. Is anybody on the line to represent this?
Yes, we're here.
All right. Tell us a little bit about this application. What are you proposing?
Well, there's a sign that we want to make is the name of the sign, the name of the business will be the Diamond Door Nantucket, and it would have a black background with a blue diamond on it. It should be 15 inches by 3 feet. It's a rectangular sign. Will be the brackets for the sign are already on the building. And in one of the images that we submitted, there is a picture of where the sign will be placed. It's going to be on the side street, right across from the hub. You know, like it's right off because the business is actually in the basement. So that little entrance behind that brick building that's right on Main Street, on that side street right there, it will be a Federal Street, and in Main Street on that the sign will be actually on Federal Street.
Okay, and this is a wood sign. So we're seeing one image. Slide 3, Esmeralda, shows sort of that's a two-tone image, and then there's one that has the diamond as more of like a blue,
Yeah.
shiny. So which one are you looking to do?
Well, we're looking to do it was just submitted a few different like the process of it, but the sign will be black with a blue diamond on it, and it's going to have the lettering, the actual font will be in white. So that's it.
Okay, and so these are painted.
Yes.
The guidelines require painted signs, so just the detail in that diamond would be difficult, I'm thinking, to recreate.
Correct. Yes.
With paint. So is it going to be more of a solid blue, or what are you thinking with the? It won't be.
We're going to try to make it as close to the image on the that be submitted as possible. We understand that it may not be exact, and the people that we were working with to try to reproduce it, they couldn't really do it without making the sign. You know what I mean, with the computer. So that's what we had to kind of submit it like that. But and the people that are going to make the sign are going to try to make it as close as possible to whatever we submitted to you, because it is going to be difficult to do it, to paint it on it. You know what I mean? So.
Okay. So just making sure that we're not going to see a vinyl applique or printing of some kind.
No. It's
okay.
It's gonna, yes.
Just wanted to clarify that for everybody. So, all right, we'll go Ben, Paul, Kevin.
Yeah, so my first question is the name of your business the Diamond Door Nantucket, or is it the Diamond Door?
No, the name of the business is the Diamond Door Nantucket, the whole thing.
Okay, so you're not using Nantucket as a location, it's a part of your name.
Correct.
You know, and Chris, you might roll your eyes, everybody might roll their eyes, but I actually really like the sign. I think it's fun to see something a little different. I think it needs a border. I don't like that the black just doesn't have anything to die on. And I actually think it's more successful as with the diamond not trying to be painted in that diamond look, but the image that we saw earlier in this packet of it kind of, Esmeralda, if you could scroll up to like, yeah, number 3. I think that's a much more appropriate way to do the diamond. I don't think trying to create that realistic look is a good idea. So I prefer this version, but of course with the border. I know I'm worried my members are going to think the font is not appropriate, but I really actually like this sign quite a bit. So that's what I have to say.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks. Paul?
My only question was what Ben raised about the word Nantucket. Does it have to be on there? Is this the only location of this business?
Yes,
This
it
the
is.
only location,
Yeah,
yes.
All right, if that's the case, then I think it's appropriate. I don't have any other questions. I like it.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Kevin.
I agree with Ben on we're looking at right now. I also think that the gold lettering is more appropriate than white. I'm just a little unclear if that's what the applicant wants.
Well, what we wanted, because the logo and everything that we have, but the letter, the everything is in white. So we wanted to do it in, but when we first thought about the sign, we kind of thought about gold leaf to make it a little bit more, prettier. But then we kind of took it back because everything else that we have is with white. So we would have to change everything to gold. You know what I mean? To do it. And so that's kind of what we decided to go back and do it in white.
If they think it would look better in the gold, I'm not adverse to it.
But if you think the gold's better, then we can definitely do that. I mean,
Yeah, I'm okay with what we're looking at right now. I think it may need to be just reduced ever so slightly. It looks like it's a little tight to the top. And I would agree that it needs some sort of a frame or edge band.
okay. Well, we wanted to do the edge banding for sure. So, but if you want me to add a border to it, I would definitely do that. Yes.
Okay, excellent. So, and I think I agree, just thinking about how the sign is going to look and read, that the two-tone without the diamond being, I'm just worried about what it would look like if it were attempted to be painted out blue. Understanding that's your logo and what you're doing with the printed materials, but on a sign, it might not read as well as it looks on the screen. So I like this two-tone personally as well. It is your call as the applicant. We can't tell you, that you have to change it. We'll make a recommendation to the board to approve or recommend revisions based on sort of what we feel is best. But how do you feel as the applicant about going two-tone and taking that advice?
I think you've done this a lot more than I have. So if you think that's going to look the best, then I have that opinion.
So it sounds like we could get a motion here that would recommend approval to the board. Would somebody like to put that together?
Sure, I'll try. Motion to approve. Why don't we call this Exhibit A? Gold lettering on a black background with an edge band to be included.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll second that.
Okay. Thanks, Ben. Paul, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Ben,
Aye.
Kevin,
All right.
great. All right, thank you guys. Good luck with your new business.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I just interrupt for a minute? I'm Libby
Yes.
Tracy from St. Paul's Church. Sorry
Oh.
for the interruption. Was there somebody representing us?
We did not have a representative, so we put the St. Paul's at the bottom of the agenda just so that we could go through applications that had people on the line. Do you mind waiting a moment? We'll
I'd
get
be
up.
more than happy to wait, please, at your
Okay.
discretion. Thank you.
Great, thanks. We'll get back to you shortly.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. In the meantime, we've got 76 Main Street. Is anybody on the line for that?
I don't have sign here unless,
Okay.
I don't have them here.
All right. Well, then we'll put them at the bottom of the agenda. Move along. Is Carly Jensen on the line?
She is here.
Great.
Hi,
Hi, let's talk about the Maritime Institute.
yes, let's do it.
Okay, what are you applying for?
So we're applying for the banner, and I did send in the artwork. Okay. We're applying for the banner that we put out, on the inside of our doors each year. And, we do it sort of to announce our featured exhibition, and just sort of just include a little bit of, information about what we do to the folks outside.
Okay, so there are two graphics. Is this the banner you're applying for?
No,
or
so we
the-
should, I think I sent in the new. So at the time when we sent in the original application, we didn't have the final artwork. So it was gonna be that picture on that sort of banner, but I did send to William last week the final artwork.
Okay,
so it
there is
doesn't
slide
appear to be
6, I
there.
think, shows a different artwork on the door.
Yeah, so that's a old photo. So it was just
Okay.
to kind of show the photo. This was the design from last year, and the new design for this year is exactly the same as slide 7, but with that photo. And it says rum
Okay.
runners and rum chasers, Nantucket Prohibition and the Coast Guard. I don't know,
Okay,
I guess the other artwork didn't make it into the packet.
Well, if this is the
Um,
graphic and the other is
yeah.
the sign, I think we can review this.
Okay.
So let's do Paul, Ben, and Kevin.
Okay, we could go back to the picture with the shows the doors open with the banner on it.
Mhm.
Okay, fine. So it covers the whole. I really don't have a problem with that, where it is, and considering it's probably not visible from the road.
It's not, and anytime that we're closed, we close those doors. So
I
if our
real-
museum isn't open, you can't see the banner.
Right, I realize that. What I'm thinking about, Carly, is that if this were on Main Street or it was on Center Street and you were displaying all your T-shirts on the
Mhm.
like that, we wouldn't approve it. But I think my opinion is that this is approvable.
Okay. And we have approved this in the past, correct?
No,
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We realized that no one ever applied for a sign for it, so that's sort of why we're doing it this year, is we want to follow the rules and make sure that we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for your honesty there. So next we are going to Ben.
Yeah, I think this is a really creative way to put signage up on the building without it always being there when the building's not in use. So, you know, I think it's a little unusual, but I agree with Paul due to the location. You know, I think this is a really creative way to get across your message. So I'm okay with it.
All right, Kevin.
oh, I'm a little bit contrarian on this. I drive by it every day in the summer and you do see it from the road. I do feel like the new proposed graphic is a little bit softer and I think will blend in a little bit better. Some of the ones in the past have been a little too bright, I think, for the setting that it's in.
Yeah.
I don't think it's appropriate to have sponsors' logos and that sort of information on the sign. I'm okay with similar to what goes on at the Whaley Museum where they're talking about an exhibition. But I don't think it's appropriate to have, you know, sponsors emblazoned on the front of a building. That's all I have.
Just from your point of view, if we put it on the other side, would you also, can you see both doors, or is it just because that's the one that is closer to the road?
I'm not sure. I don't think it would matter for me, but
Okay, because I know that you can see more of the right side of the building if you're driving by it, so if we put it on the left side of the door.
You can see this building from the road. I mean, Kevin, I agree with you. You can definitely see the building from the road. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So I don't think that.
I'm a little
Mr. Chairman?
concerned about what the precedent sets on it as well, but
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, I have the same comments that Kevin did about the sponsorship. I can't read it here, but I do recall looking at it now that he mentions.
Yeah.
Let's go to slide 7. Yeah, just see that.
So I
Yeah,
don't think-
certainly.
I don't think we've have not sponsorship in other banners at other museums.
I agree. That's always been something that we've been really adamant about. If we're going to allow these banners, they're intended to be informing the public, not advertising. So that would have to be done through other literature that you hand out.
Mhm.
So is there a consensus? Do we want to make a motion here?
I kind of hate to say it, but I would really like to see the final, what the banner is actually going to look like.
So I did send it last week. I mean,
Could you email it to me, Carly?
yeah.
Okay, while that email is coming in, Kevin, you were the last one. You said you were worried about precedent.
Well,
you want to?
yeah, I mean,
expand on that.
I'm just a little bit, our job is to keep the architecture looking clean and appropriate. And I'm just not sure what this really does other than put a splash of color on the front of the building somehow. It's nothing that can be really read from the street, even from the parking lot. I think would be difficult. I just sort of question the whole notion of just putting things on the insides of doors, and all of a sudden we got people wanting to do that everywhere. And what have we accomplished? That's my concern with it. I know it's been there for a while. It's for a while there was also a big one that hung up in front of the coffin school, and I think that was appropriate at the time, or was inappropriate at the time. So I'm just concerned we could be opening the door up for a lot of clutter.
Okay. So here's the graphic. I think we're saying that the logos at the bottom would be inappropriate if the banner is deemed.
I don't think you need the ones at the top
Appropriate.
either. Where the building already has a sign on it.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think I'm in agreement with Kevin that we need to walk a fine line on this one so that this doesn't become a precedent setting situation. So I would make a motion to approve with the removal of the sponsorships on the top and on the bottom, and the graphic or the logos on the top, and with the precedent with the caveat that we are approving this due to you know, remote location of the museum. Is that good enough, or is that, is there a better way to
That's-
term that?
Well, I think that can be put into the record and recommended, you know, the board's going to vote on it.
Right.
It'll become, you know, it'll become
Second
an
that.
approved file. Okay. Kevin, what is your vote?
That was an aye.
Oh, that was an aye. Okay, thank
No,
you.
sorry.
Kevin, or the Paul
Hi,
and Ben.
Aye.
Okay, I as well. So to be clear, that was approval with no logos, top or bottom. And making note in the file that this is due to its remote location. Carly, are you okay with that? All right, okay, good. It's
Yep.
gonna go up to the board tonight for recommendation
Okay, awesome.
to be approved. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
sign here
Yes.
is here, and so is Ann Scott from the Athenaeum.
Okay,
Chris,
well, yes, Paul.
do we skip number 6?
We did skip 6 because we had nobody on the line. We said we would move on to
Okay.
the folks that were here, but let's I'm gonna try to get this reorganized. We now have St. Paul's sign here and Ann on the line. So I'm gonna go in the order of the original agenda, I think. Let's do St. Paul's sign here and then Ann. So St. Paul's, we have somebody on the line to discuss that.
Yeah, so my name is Libby Tracy, and I am one of the wardens at the church, and part of my responsibility is the maintenance of the campus. So when it was suggested that we have a sign made for announcements about activities at the church, we proceeded with a local carpenter, and I was unaware that there were specific requirements for not only signage but dimensions. So I'm here to, number one, apologize because I'm accountable for the work at the church, and number two, to make this happen in a better way if we have to remove the sign and rebuild it and apply for it and go through the proper channels. So this is really more about my personal apology than anything else.
Okay, so we have had some discussions about this sign in the past. And have you had a chance to read through the minutes of those meetings? Are you familiar with some of the discussion points?
No,
Sounds like
I'm
you
sorry.
kind of hit them on the head. So,
Yes.
you know, location, obviously new freestanding signage being the first concern. Under the public information component, which does specifically talk about religious institutions. You know, there's the avenue to apply for this sign, but then size and location becomes a concern. So let's go around the board. We'll go.
Chris, can I start?
Yeah. Yes, Ben.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I've been the instigator of this, and I'm sorry, but you know, I drive by or ride my bike by your church every morning. So I saw the sign go up and knew I hadn't seen it as an application. So I definitely fall on the sword of enforcement here. You know, we have the Athenaeum waiting in line right now to apply for a freestanding sign that we've been very reluctant to approve. So we need to maintain a you know, a true impartial, you know, position here. You know, we talked about the sign at a number of meeting or two already. And unfortunately, it just doesn't meet our guidelines. So we're not in a position to approve it or recommend an approval because we have to follow our guidelines. Now, we just make recommendations. The HDC is the guiding final voice in this. I know that I was at the meeting when this was looked at by the HDC, and they were less upset about it than, or less concerned about it, I would say, than us. So I would strongly recommend that you go to the HDC meeting this evening to talk to them. But judging by our guidelines, I don't think I'm sure we can't recommend an approval on this right now. I would also just mention that I know you guys are doing a huge renovation on the building. If this sign were somehow related to signage needed during construction, I think that might be an avenue for a temporary use of it for now without going into some violation situation. But that's only a Band-Aid for now. So those are my comments.
All right, thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Kevin? Kevin and then Paul.
I respectfully disagree with my colleague Ben on the point of, I don't think it's appropriate to take something that is so far outside of our guidelines to the full board. I just think that brings confusion and gives the whole program less credibility. So I would encourage the applicant to apply in the normal way, to have an application that meets the guidelines as best they can, and that we review it from there. That's all.
Thanks, Kevin. Paul?
I agree with Kevin. I don't know if the applicant is aware of what the size guidelines and whatever other points that would be in there, but I would encourage them to get a hold of the guideline book, the sign book, and take a look at it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody. And one thing I did see that there were some signs of, or photographs of existing signs, and there's certainly some pre-existing non-conforming signs around town that predated the guidelines. And as Ben mentioned, we've got the Athenaeum online here, and they're looking to have a sign like this approved. And we certainly need to really use the guidelines as our basis for recommending approval. So I think that it would be best to have this revised according to the guidelines.
If I
yeah,
could
Kevin.
also add, Chris, that while it's certainly reasonable for St. Paul's to apply for a freestanding sign, I would really encourage them to find a way to put a sign either onto the building or back in the parking lot or somewhere where it is less in the face of the traffic and less distracting to the overall view of the building. I would strongly encourage to find a way to not have it be freestanding. That's all. Sorry.
All right. So Esmeralda, we scroll through this. I just want to see, are we acting on just a letter, or is there an actual application here? I don't have the view pack in front of me.
Mr. Chairman, no, there's
Yes.
no new information.
Okay.
Like Ben mentioned and Kevin as well.
Yeah.
This did go to the HDC, and your recommendation was to deny it, but it did go to the HDC, and they
Right.
were adamant not to be denied and to give the opportunity to the applicant to revise your drawings and for it to come back to you guys with new drawings with the fee waived to remedy this, as
Right.
Kevin suggested. So.
Right. So we haven't actually seen that step yet.
No.
Just-
And
okay.
I had been speaking to someone prior. And I know it wasn't Miss Trace, it was someone else. I don't remember, but they had to travel. So I guess the
Okay.
message wasn't passed along.
Okay. So
Seems
the HTC gave us direction And I think we should follow it. I mean, technically that's, so we would recommend a revised application.
I think what I think what's appropriate is to make a motion to hold for revisions. I don't think we really have anything at this point new to look at. So in an effort to give the applicant more time and a better understanding, I think it's appropriate to hold for revisions.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Ben.
Aye.
And Paul
Aye.
and Kevin.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, guys. And thanks for being on the line with us today and explaining things, but I think we have to do what the board directed and what we just voted on. So hold for revisions.
Oh, thank you all so much. I so appreciate your comments, and we will reapply with the proper guidelines in place. Would you like us to remove the sign? I mean, right
Oh,
now.
that's a technically that would be, the answer would be yes,
Yes.
in that it's in a violation state, so to
Mhm.
speak. So if it's possible to remove the sign, I suppose that technically, yes, that would be
Good.
our
We will
request.
do that. Good. All right.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hey.
All right, we have sign here, Nantucket on the line to talk about 76 Main Street, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And let's see that application. That's a pre-existing freestanding sign, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, there's a bracket that's already been there. And
Yeah.
the new sign that they're applying for is the same exact size as the old sign. They're kind of just updating their branding a bit. So I have a picture of the old sign. And then the new sign is going to be same size, double-sided. It's going to be gold leaf and Essex green. And they're just kind of updating the branding. So.
Okay, let's go Kevin, Paul, Ben.
I have no concerns with the sign. I do, however, have a concern with the lighting. I think if you scroll up one, you can see here that the lighting as it exists, today has these two bare bulbs, and they're really unattractive in the evening. So the application says that the lighting is existing. If this is the existing lighting, which I believe it is, I think I could not approve that. Other than that, the sign is all right. I think the bracket seems a little long, but I understand that it's existing. That's all. It's all about the lighting on this one for me. Thanks.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah, I think, we've made an improvement on the sign. We've gotten rid of Nantucket from the old, the old sign says Nantucket on the bottom, which I didn't notice before. So I agree about Kevin with the lighting. I would also, I guess for the record, like to just clarify that this is a business called 76 Main, so that another residential house would want to put up a sign that says their address is not acceptable. So just, I don't know, for the record, 76 Main is the name of the business, so that's why.
Yeah. Hotel branch to the one that's next to the Brotherhood, they're the same company.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Paul, do you have any comments?
I have no problems with the sign. I think the lighting can be modified so it meets the lighting guidelines and is more attractive.
Okay, so then as far as the applicant, what can you propose for the lighting that would help us send this up with a approval, including the lighting? Or I suppose we could recommend it for approval without any lighting, and then it could be reapplied for with new lighting.
Can we look at slide 8 for a second, just so I can see the current state one picture? Okay, so I guess it's a little tricky because this bracket is pre-existing and everything with it is pre-existing. So if you're suggesting we take out the light bulbs from the bracket, that can be feasible. I don't know what we could do without altering what's already there. I don't know if you have a recommendation, but that would be super helpful.
So I think, Kevin, am I understanding you and everybody else as far as like a more of a hooded light that is not a exposed bulb is what?
Yeah,
That's what the guidelines call for, something that directs the light to the sign and not in every direction.
yeah. That's,
So,
that would be a simple solution. I guess to move this along, I'll make a motion to approve the sign and to hold for revisions on the lighting.
okay.
Second.
Esmeralda, would that, thank you. Before we vote, Esmeralda, would that mean a new application has to be presented for lighting later? Or can we recommend a new application with waiving the fee later? I mean, just trying to think about the,
You could do either, but yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So, just so I'm under the way that the light bulb is now is fine. It just needs a hood over it, just so I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, the problem with the lighting now is that it's an open exposed bulb.
Got it.
And it's not directing the light to the sign. So you could come back with an application to modify this lighting or put in a new fixture.
Okay. It's just
But
tricky because
Kevin's
for a long
motion
time.
is to approve without,
Okay.
yeah, well, it's a chance for us to get it right. So the motion's been made and seconded to approve the sign with no lighting allowed at the moment. A new application will be submitted for a fixture or a modification to this fixture. Ben, are you in favor of that?
Aye.
And Kevin
Aye.
and Paul?
Aye.
Okay. So,
Sorry, I just wanted to reiterate just so I'm clear. So we will submit a new application if we want lighting on the sign that edits the current fixtures.
yes, I would just submit an application for lighting at a later date. So we just approved it without lighting, essentially.
Okay.
Not essentially.
Okay.
That's what we just are recommending. The board approves it without lighting.
Okay.
And you are also here for Old North Wharf.
Yes. I believe she received a letter as well, because there is,
Okay.
but we would like to adjust it and help it meet the guidelines. She's going to get a new sign, so the sign that's there now is not going to be there. You can completely disregard it. But I'll just wait to sign it in view. But we're looking at moving the sign to the door. Let's see, right there. That's going to be the sign. It's a single-sided wall sign. And it's going right where that yellow is circled, so to the right of the door there.
Okay. Paul, Ben, and Kevin. Paul.
I have no problems with as presented.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah, I was the enforcer on this one too. Yeah, the existing sign is really not appropriate. So the new sign, can we look at that again? Can we? Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's gold. It's white with gold leaf. Is that what's going on here?
It's going to be gold paint, not gold leaf. It's very
Okay.
similar to the existing sign, but it's not going to be as loud, obviously, because I think the one that's there is plastic. This is going to be wood carved and painted, so it'll be much more subtle.
Yeah, I think it's like mirrored or something. It's really bizarre. So yeah, I'm good with the sign. I will note, and I don't know where we're at with this, but there's a huge faux flower window casing on the building currently as well. And I don't know if that's, I don't know where we're at with that, but there it is. It looks unfortunate.
Yeah, that's not in our, that hasn't come back from the HDC yet, so we'll
Okay, all right.
hold
So
hold
anyway,
off on those comments.
yeah. So yeah, the sign's fine.
Okay, Kevin?
I'm a little unclear. If you could go back to the sign graphic again, please. I'm a little unclear if your representation here is supposed to indicate that it's reflective, or are you actually planning to paint it to have those highlights in it?
No, it's just a representation of gold versus like yellow. That's all.
Okay,
So
so
it's going to be a shiny gold. It's not going to be reflective like that. No.
okay, understand. I'm okay with the sign. I think it would be remiss for us not to point out the full flower arrangement. It's inappropriate, and I believe it qualifies as a sign according to our guidelines. But this sign that's applied for, I have no concerns with.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Great. All right, Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Paul,
aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, great. And we have Ann on the line from the Athenaeum. Is that correct?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Okay, we've discussed this before. Thanks for patiently waiting through all the applications and shuffling of the
My
agenda,
pleasure.
but here we are. Is there anything, I see there's a master sign plan and then we're also looking at the freestanding sign.
Correct.
Let's start with the master sign plan, which I think we'll really end up talking about the freestanding sign.
Sure.
Go ahead and tell us what you've presented.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. This master sign plan was presented at your request, and we were happy to provide this. It was something that we had not had on file, and I think it pretty clearly outlines the signs that exist. If you can, I assume that you have reviewed this as well. None of these signs are new to the Athenaeum.
Right, I think we're familiar with these. It's good to put them on paper.
Right.
I think one of the points that everybody had was that beyond the 2 allowable signs, this building has been granted plenty of signage. And I think we're going to result or end up looking at the freestanding sign ultimately, right?
Right.
The last sign. I'll open it up to the board. Generally speaking, besides the freestanding sign, does anybody have a comment on the pre-existing signs? Just leave
I have
that.
a couple of comments.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, the application is missing the primary identifying sign for the building, which are probably, I don't know, 18 or 24-inch letters going across the top. If you could hold it, and then also hold it right there on C. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signs on here right now, and the application says 2 signs. So I think this is just an example of how cluttered and confusing this whole entryway is here. So
I would love to speak to that,
I'm not-
Mr. Chairman.
I'm not really prepared to approve that as it exists. And I noticed on a couple of other ones, I know they're existing, for instance, on the handicap sign, it's noted as a plastic sign. We've had other applicants make those out of wood and they've been successful. So while I understand that it's existing, it also, I think any new application, including a master sign plan, should reflect the current guidelines. That's my comments so far.
Okay, and before you respond, let me just go through the board. Kevin, or excuse me, Paul, do you have any comments?
Looking at the screen that's up there now, of the 5 signs on the door, the 2 at the top, are they the same? I'm assuming it's hours of operation.
That's correct. The
So
two,
why do you need 2? Well,
Actually, let's so that's your comments. I'll have Ben speak and then we'll go back over to Ann just to,
yeah,
try to
you don't have to answer the
everybody's-
question. I don't think you need 2 signs without.
okay. All right, so hold on to that thought, Ann. Ben?
Yeah, I guess I have nothing to add. It's interesting that this, considering that floor plan of the building as a sign, it's funny. I walk by that every day. I never really thought about that thing before. I thought it was like a safety thing or something. I never really thought about it, but yeah, we definitely need to include the big Athenaeum lettering on top of the building in this packet. So yeah, unfortunately, I think this packet needs another round of refinement to collect everybody. But I think, thank you for putting it together. I think, you know, one more round and we'll get it right, but I think it's good to have.
Okay, and I agree that it needs to be complete. If we're going to put it on record as the master sign plan, it needs to be accurate. But I will, let's have Ann speak to the questions about this entryway in particular, if you wanted to comment on that.
And Chris, right
Oh,
before we
yes, Ben.
turn it over, Chris, sorry, I
Yeah.
think there's more signage over at the Wheezy Library, unless that's like a separate building or something, but I believe there's quite a bit of signage over there. No, there's nothing? Door or anything? Oh, okay, well,
I don't know if we have a
aside-
photograph of that. So Ann, we'll give you the floor here. Respond to,
yeah, I would just
sorry.
add just to answer the questions about any of the temporary signage that you can see displayed here and regarding sign C. So the signs that we have listed within this application are signs that were approved in the past. I'm not sure what year these 2 wall signs were approved for the Athenaeum. It is, yes, you are correct, duplicate information with the hours listed. The temporary signage that is there, I agree, is quite cluttering. We're making some changes in that regard. The one to the lower left is our policy regarding not allowing any animals but service animals in the building. And we've, just talked a lot about like how to make that clear to the public. That's something that comes in and out of the building. The other sign is displaying a program that is going on that day that could easily be displayed down at the post signage. And the free public library sign is another temporary sign. And that gets placed outside to try to accomplish what we would hope to accomplish with a tasteful, though freestanding sign indicating that we're a public library. So that's what that signage is about. I totally agree with you. It's a very cluttered image, and I think we can make those changes, hopefully all of those changes.
on the Wheezy.
On the Wheezy, any
side.
signage that you would see on Wheezy, we have documented, I mean, aside from the obvious exclusion of the gold lettering that's part of the building. So sorry about that. I think we sort of think of that as part of our building, but we will include that in a revision. Anything that you might see over at Wheezy would be, you know, possibly a temporary sign, like one of those that would be brought back inside the building after the program is over.
Okay, so let's move on to the freestanding sign. We'll definitely
Should
want
we
to see
vote
a
on this, Chris?
revised application. Well, the freestanding sign is part of it, so I think that
Oh.
if we vote to approve the master sign plan, I believe we're going to see. Am I correct about that sign? F is the
Well, I think we should hold it for.
yeah, we should hold for revisions to have this be complete.
I just have
So
a small comment to make, because I want to make sure I understand it correctly, is that I don't believe we have ever approved a sign for the Athenaeum of any kind. I could be mistaken about that. So just for the applicant's sake, that just because it's
we
up,
did
I
some
don't
research.
know that it's been approved. Did you find some
I
documentation?
think there have been some, Kevin.
Okay, all right. Okay, got it. Thank you.
I do recall, but I can't tell you exactly which ones and where. But and you said you did some research.
Well, it was a request that was made early on in our request around the freestanding sign. There was some question about things that had been approved, and so we looked, and Billy also looked, and I think that was part of another meeting where we talked about the approval of some of these signs.
Well, I know there have been in the banners, the temporary banners for the dance festival, for example,
Right.
have come through. And
And the post signs.
and the post signs at the end of the walkway, correct?
Yeah,
And
But I
I think a freestanding sign at one point before it was removed, it fell into some disrepair and we removed it.
Okay, so well, this I think we agree this needs to have a
Right.
revision to the master sign plan before this would get voted on. So that
Right.
might be an easy motion for us today. Would somebody like to make that, Kevin, Paul? Kevin,
So
Ben? All right. Anybody want to second it?
Second,
Oh,
All right, thanks. Ben, are you in favor?
aye.
And Kevin
I,
and Paul?
Aye.
Okay. So saying that we don't have an approved master sign plan, the freestanding sign, let's open the discussion on that as well.
I just put together some notes just to refresh everyone's memory about, you know, this application. It's been a few months before we've come back before you. Our board and staff have been having a really long conversation that began when I joined the Athenaeum in September of 2019. And what we realized is that while we may think that everyone should know that the Athenaeum is a free public library, both long-term and new residents struggle with this knowledge. The demographics of Nantucket have also changed such that we seek to serve more residents with diverse cultural backgrounds and that are unused to the existence of this free public service, let alone in an imposing Neo-Greco white columned building with gold lettering, spelling out Atheneum, a word that is based on the existence of the Greek goddess Athena. And I found that we had, up until recent years, had a tastefully designed freestanding sign that indicated that the Athenaeum is a library. And as I mentioned, that sign had fallen into some disrepair and was removed, as far as we can tell from the images, approximately 10 years ago. And a trustee, in finding that out, stepped forward to pay for the reconstruction of a replica by a fine finishing carpenter on island, Ben Moore. And our first appearance before this committee after applying for this sign was on December of last year. And at that meeting, it was decided that there weren't enough people from the committee on the call to make a decision. And you also wanted us to do some research on whether the Athenaeum had agreed to remove the freestanding sign at some point in exchange for our current post signs. And that's when we did some research and found that that was not the case. I think Billy at that time shared with me and submitted the list of approvals for signs through the years. We did find images, excuse me, of both the post signs and the freestanding sign existing simultaneously over time as well. Our second meeting was in February, on February 7th. And at that time, I was joined by the Athenaeum's vice chair, Nathaniel Philbrick, and we shared images of the years that the freestanding sign existed simultaneously. And Mr. Philbrick also made a case for the need of a freestanding sign as a more visible way of indicating to the public that we're a free public library and that we're an educational organization partly funded by the town to provide fair, inclusive access to knowledge creation for all Nantucketers. And we spoke of churches making use of freestanding signs in the same way, sharing their purpose and their hours. And it was then agreed that a positive recommendation could be made if we would change the wording on the sign from free public library to the original wording of just library, and change the post style back to the original style. And if we would stake the sign location, and we did all of those things immediately because it sounded like the approval was contingent on those changes. A third meeting was held February 21st without my understanding that we even needed to be present again. I didn't even know that there was a third meeting being hosted, but that's kind of beside the point. At this point, I heard from Billy that we were asked to provide a sign plan and that any additional photos showing the existence of the freestanding sign existing with the post signs would be appreciated. And we worked with Billy on that. And at this time, we're really hoping that you'll reconsider the need for a visible informational sign. Although it also happens to be a freestanding sign, and I understand the concerns around that, we've done our best to persuade you of the need and to ensure that the sign would be in the appropriate aesthetic so as not to take away from the dignity of our historic building.
Okay, thanks, Ann. So reading back to the February minutes, we basically did come up with the question of the number of signs on the property and whether they would be appropriate. And the discussion centered around also this being really something for the HDC to ultimately decide on, as we can give our recommendations, but it's a very impactful location that, you know, the HDC's opinion will be extremely important. I'm sure they're going to want to pull this and discuss it anyway. So let me go through the board. We'll just have give everybody a chance to speak. Kevin, Ben, and then Paul.
Yeah, I appreciate the applicant coming back with a further explanation. However, I don't feel like the applicant has really worked with their existing signs that are in place. They have two entry at the entry posts. Two signs available there that could contain essentially the same information right at the entrance. I don't feel necessarily like just because this existed at one point that it is, historic. It's more cute, I think, than something that would have been crafted at the time that the building was built. Or even shortly thereafter. So I think it's a little bit of a sign that becomes kind of a folly in a way. And I don't see it, any of the inside information of being able to be read where it's being proposed. It's at least probably 10 to 15 feet off the sidewalk, and really no way to get up to it unless you go up and walk in the courtyard and walk on the lawn. I think there's ways to solve this issue. I'm not convinced of the issue, but you don't have to convince me, I guess. But I think there's other ways to solve this need than putting up a sign. There's plenty of other sign opportunities that already exist in my mind. So I'm not in favor of adding freestanding signs in general, and I don't think this meets the standard where we should. There's already plenty of signs. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr.
Ben.
Chairman, could I add something?
No, let me go through the board and we'll come back to you. So Ben and then Kevin.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I really agree with Kevin on this in that the library has opportunities to meet their goals in other ways, but I don't think that's in our purview here. It's up to them to figure out how to do it, not us. We're here to tell them what our guidelines are and request that they meet our guidelines. So I believe that the guidelines can provide the library with a freestanding sign, just like a religious institution. Is that right, Chris? Do they fall under that category?
Under the public information signs section, that's where it would fall. Then the question is simply quantity of signs. And just to go back,
that's exactly where I'm going. I think, to add a freestanding sign like this to meet our guidelines, they need to probably, I'm believing, take away signage elsewhere. So if this sign is really the sign that you guys need, then you need to look at your other signage in your master sign plan and figure out where can we take away signage how do we create balance here with adding this very large freestanding sign? We're going to unfortunately need to take away signage to make that happen. So, I haven't closed the book on this. I personally don't love it, but it's up to the applicant to show us how this freestanding sign can work within our guidelines. And I'm not seeing that yet, unfortunately. Yeah. So that's what I have to say.
Chris, I got one more thought. I want to.
Let me go to Paul.
Yeah, certainly.
And then we'll come back around. Paul.
I agree with Ben. I look at this as a public information sign. The church would approve it. So I'm looking at it separately from the number of other signs there are on the property. It's a very big, large, imposing building that if you didn't know it was a library, you wouldn't know what it was. And I think probably the most important thing is to put the word out that this is a free public library like every other town has, except it's private and not owned by the town and not owned by the municipality. So I think as a public information sign, it's okay. But I think the qualifications that Ben is adding are also okay. Those are my comments.
Okay. Kevin, if you want to add a point.
Yeah, I just if we could go back to the master sign plan and look at the front entry again, I think that was Plan C. Yeah, if we could scroll down just a little so we could see the whole entry. Well, so it seems to me that something up by the door, perhaps over the door, perhaps on one of the doors, you could make a statement that that's a library in a little bit bolder way than an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. and again with the two front post signs. I think there's ample opportunity to approach this to get your message across without having to stick another sign in the ground. You've got a grand entrance. There's no reason that a simple, tasteful sign couldn't be put on those doors that says it's a library. No different than Pacific National Bank. You know, they've got a simple, I really believe there's a way to solve this communication need without having to add more clutter to the site. So that's where I fall on this. I think there's not a real holistic look at other opportunities to solve this, and I would encourage the applicant to do that. Thank you.
All right, Ann, let me, before you speak, I'll say that I've been reading through the minutes from the meetings, and we've certainly gone around several times on this with the question of whether it's appropriate in general, what the messaging should be, how it should be presented, and then the quantity of signs. So, you know, I think you've heard all of that from us time and time again, but also ultimately that this will end up at the full board for their review. Let me ask this: in February 20, the 21st meeting, we asked that get staked, and I believe that was marked. Kevin, your concern was it being really far back, but that stake showed it a little closer to the sidewalk, correct, Ann? As far as on your ultimate,
That's right, because we're on
where the
the,
location is.
right, because we're on the corner there at Federal and India, what we're finding is folks do not see, so these post signs are great when people are entering or are walking by, and you're right, I mean, they both should be made use of. You can see the one on the right is missing a sign. One of those signs from the front door that has a program could easily be put in that post sign. And I think, you know, part of the struggle is that those post signs are not very obvious, and I agree that something more obvious is necessary. But the freestanding sign is actually close enough to the fence that, and it's high up enough that folks can see clearly when they're coming around that corner, whether they're heading in whatever direction they're heading on Federal or India. They can see the sign and it's clear that it's a library, and the hours that are placed within the encased sign would also be visible. That's something that we've tested, because of course we'd want to make sure that the sign was effective.
Okay, so
yeah, and I'd love to take away all those temporary signs on the front door. I mean, I think that that's fair, that does look cluttered, and then part of it is an attempt to get the word out there that we're a public library. That's one of those temporary laminated signs that you see there.
all right, so this is going to get a recommendation for us to send up to the board. There's a lot of components to a quantity of signs. At the same time, we really kind of want to have a master sign plan approved. Would you like to take a moment and to put everything back together, consider if there's signage that is unnecessary, maybe come back with a master sign plan that gives us that opportunity to look at this one time completely, that might address Ben's concerns about the quantities and trading off, if that's something that we can help with a recommendation.
I would love that.
Not saying that that's all going to end up with a recommendation for approval, but it would at least go up to the board with some of those concerns addressed.
Exactly.
And I think that would probably be best. Is let me just go around the board one more time, make sure that I'm not leaving any concerns or thoughts out. So let's do Paul, Ben, Kevin, just one more time. You want to have any thoughts before we make a motion?
No additional thoughts.
Ben?
No, I look forward to seeing a really complete package here, and Thank you.
All right, thanks, and Kevin.
Yeah, I guess my only thought would be, I don't think this is a matter of taking away from one area so you can add to another. I think our policy is pretty clear about freestanding signs. I don't believe that the ability or the inability to get a marketing message across is something that should drive whether or not we put a freestanding sign in. Again, I think there's plenty of opportunity with the existing infrastructure that's there. That's all.
Okay, so, and I think we'll still give you the chance to come back with the application. We have to send this up to the board, but I do believe it would be best sent up as complete as possible. I hope you're hearing that there might not be a unanimous or even majority opinion that it should be recommended for approval, but I believe that that's the best course of action for us right now. If we make a motion for revision to the master sign plan, and subsequently we'll say hold for master sign plan to review the freestanding sign. So let's first, can we get a motion on the master sign plan?
Make a motion to hold for revision.
Second.
Thanks, Kevin. Are you in favor? Paul?
Hi.
Ben?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. And with that in mind, we get a motion for,
Make a motion to hold the freestanding sign for a completed master sign plan and potentially revisions.
Second.
thanks, Kevin
Aye.
and Ben
Aye.
and Paul.
Hi.
Okay. Thanks, Ann. And so, Ann, to be clear, you know, this will end up at the HDC. We appreciate that you're going through this with us. Are you able to bring this back relatively quickly and let work in your timeline? I know this application's been on the books here since December, so you know, that would help us just dot the i's from our perspective before we send up a recommendation to the board. So if we could see at the next meeting, that'd be great.
And I'll work with my staff on that, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully we can,
Okay.
we're just as eager to close the books on this as you are.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Appreciate you working with us on this.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, I believe that closes out all of the new applications. Am I correct, Esmeralda? Did we skip over anything that we have not reviewed?
Nope, that is all. The only one that you did not really reviewed was the lighting plan. That person did not show up for it, which was
Okay,
12
oh, thank
Main
you
Street.
for, oh, so let's have that discussion. We should make a motion on that today, of one kind or another. So that goes back to Calista West's lighting, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's pull that up.
Bear with me.
Ben, you can start the conversation. Ben. Paul,
Yeah,
Kevin.
I would, I want to recommend that we all hold for review because this is, it looks very unusual, and representation. But I would also like to, it says something about AC condensers, but that's an HDC thing, not a sign thing. So that should be.
Race light to support.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what the AC is all about, but that should be, you know, at least it says on the agenda AC something. So
Yeah. No.
oh,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, I don't know why it says that, but I didn't see anywhere on the application about AC. So
okay.
I'm gonna.
All right. So, Paul.
Can we go back to the picture? Yeah, I can't see it yet. There it is. Yeah. It appears that it has been replaced and this is new. However, it's all copper and copper pipe and gold lampshades. My suggestion was it should all be painted black. Other than that, I don't have any comments.
Okay, Kevin.
I believe there's another one or two signs on this elevation. I tend to think the lighting should be somewhat consistent, certainly in color. I think Paul's recommendation to paint it out black would help. It also seems like the positioning of it is unusual compared to lighting just the sign. It looks like this is going to wash the entire front of the windows. And again, I kind of question if we should be approving lighting on businesses that it's doubtful they're going to be open in the evening hours. So anyway, I'm just afraid that we're starting to get this building cluttered up with more than it is, and this particular fixture is not helping. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, if it is what it looks like, which is raw copper tubing, almost the way a plumber would pipe a water supply, it'll probably turn brown pretty quickly. But then I'm curious about the base plate and the lampshades, which look to be more of a brass or something. I don't know if those are lacquered brass. It'll stay looking brass forever. So it might end up as a two-tone look in the near future once the weather hits that copper and does what it does. But there's something about this that doesn't look appropriate aesthetically. So I think that I'd like to view it, and I think I'm going to view it at night too, just to see sort of how the wash and what the effect of these lights are on the building. So we have the
Mr.
owner of
Chairman?
Costa West.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
was
see
just going
that.
to mention, I believe the owner's here.
Okay, let's let her into the conversation. Are they logged in?
Hi, can you hear me? It's Callista.
Yes, we can.
Hi, good morning. I apologize. I did not know that I needed to be here for the meeting, and someone just sent me a message that I did. So thank you for letting me in.
Okay, well, your timing is right on. Did you hear what we were saying?
I'm so sorry. I did not. I just got on about 1 minute ago.
Okay, the concerns with the new lighting is that it's aesthetically looks sort of out of place with what's usually approved, which is meant to be subtle, not as much of a fixture that's apparent on the building. And so
Okay.
we're looking at the size, the color of it being sort of, whether it's brass and copper, and the copper is going to weather differently than the brass, or how it's all going to be,
Okay.
appear. It certainly isn't subtle. But also sort of what the effect of its wash on the building is. It's really meant to just subtly light the sign, and this we're not sure how this is going to wash the entire side of the windows or how it will appear.
I know it needs to be turned off at night when we're not open for business. I don't know if I can share my screen with you, but when the lights are on, it pretty much just illuminates directly below the sign. It's not lighting up like the whole side of the building. And I also want to apologize. I did not realize that the lighting needed to be approved. I just went ahead and had my electrician install it. So I apologize for that. And I know that before there was a light there, but it just was like two small, like black sort of spotlights. So I don't know if that would be approvable or not.
Do you say, I don't know if Esmeralda, can she share her screen if you have a photograph of this on at night? Although we were talking about hold for viewing as being our next move.
She
So that
can, I can stop
the right
sharing
thing.
for her to share.
Okay.
Okay, let's
If you
allow that.
Just give me a moment. I just need to go through my phone and.
You know, while we wait here, I just want to make one quick
Yeah.
comment. You know, we just approved this sign recently, right?
Yeah.
Last couple months.
Yeah.
You know, on that application, there is the question of lighting, and I'm just curious if that was filled in or not at that time.
So Sign here in Nantucket, they took care of the application process from start to finish. So I was not privy to the application
Yeah,
process.
Callista, I was actually directing that question more to Esmeralda.
Oh,
if that was the
sorry.
application was around, or, you know, but yes, thank you for
Do
clarifying.
you recall when it might have been approved?
I don't know. I just remember that was what's his name, Butler of the Hills or whatever that.
Okay, I can look through our database.
Yeah. Because you may have an approval for some lighting
Okay.
already. And it may be that, and who knows? I don't know.
I think it just before, I think it just had like those, those small black
Right.
spotlights that most of the businesses have around town.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I had a photo.
Well, I think that there was a concern too, Ben, right? You would like to have a viewing just for sake of scale and presence on the building, let alone the lighting. So Callista, we were pretty close to having a motion to, I believe, have a viewing, which would just put this on an agenda at a later date.
Okay.
For action. If you would like, well, you're welcome to send in any photographs that you might have that could be added to the agenda, added to the application packet.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll all have a chance to see it in person shortly.
Okay.
Would somebody like to make an agenda motion?
Motion to hold for viewing and further information.
Second,
All right, thank you. Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Ben
Aye.
and Paul?
aye.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
And what do you guys need? You just need to see the light on at night? Or
Yeah, I think we're both the light on and the light itself. So
okay.
that'd be great.
Should we schedule, because I know that it cannot stay on overnight. Should I pencil in a time to put it on at night so that someone could go by to see it?
Why don't we ask that you leave it on overnight this week, during the weekdays of this week?
Okay, sure. And it does
Cool.
develop a patina over time as well. I'm not sure if you need to know.
Okay, that's helpful. Is it lacquered brass or unlacquered brass? The
No.
okay.
I can tell you in 1 second.
Okay, well, if we have a motion that we'll have a chance to review. If you want to send in any specifications to Esmeralda, that would be great.
Okay.
So
sure.
did we have an official motion made? It passed, so we're holding this for viewing. Thank you for that. Leave it on this week at night. We'll have a chance to stop by and view it.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Esmeralda, enforcement was that?
Billy has been taking care of
Hold on.
enforcement, and I think
Yeah.
the only enforcement he had this week was 1B Old North Wharf that he took care of. Other than
Right.
that, we have not had any other item on the agenda.
Any board members want to speak on that?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to get a little bit of better direction here from the board about what what's progressing with this, the whole flower arrangement thing. I'm seeing them starting to pop up everywhere on down on the wharf, down at Vineyard Vines. I mean, it's like going on everywhere. And I think I think doing nothing is not a solution. And doing more of the same doesn't, I think, fit very well. So,
If I may, I believe the chairmen, Chris Young and Ray Pullman, are working behind the scenes with that. They're trying to work with that, but again, I'm not sure. I think,
Yeah, that I basically sent it up to Ray to request clear direction, meaning that we were given the request from the HDC to have public hearings, which we did. We sent them back up to the board, and it sort of died there. So that was put on the agenda for the HDC to discuss further and give us direction, whether they, ultimately were advising on the approvability of things, so that they can take the actions. So it's hard for us to become the acting, it's not our role to be the acting board trying to enforce something that the HDC isn't telling us to enforce. So I know it sounds like a ping pong battle, and Kevin, I get where you're coming
Yeah.
from, but we need their consensus or direction that this is what we should be doing. So
yeah,
Ray, it's in Ray's court.
They should have town council's opinion in that as well, right?
Yes, if Ray, if they request it. I mean, we've asked for it, and
We have
we have it. They did, right? If they want to act on that, again, it's hard for us. We're really here to do their bidding, and until Ray sends us a letter or something that is official from the board, we have to just sort of wait for their direction.
and
Well,
if I
maybe-
may, Mr. Chairman, I know
Yes.
Ray was working on it, but I think with the election and everything, town meeting, he just got sidetracked, but I will mention
Yeah.
it to him again.
Yeah,
But he said he
Thanks.
was gonna work with, he was working on it, and I will follow up with Billy as well.
Great, thank you, Esmeralda.
thanks.
You're
One
welcome.
other thing I'm noticing is that and it may just be my mindset at the moment, but we're seeing more applications where the lighting is not clearly either called out or it's assumed that it was approved because it's installed. And I think now with the new lighting guidelines and with our guidelines, I think we should be dialed in a little more on some of this so that it doesn't get too crazy out there. I'm not sure how we do that but for instance, if any of you do go downtown to look at, Callista's sign at night, look down on, look at the other streets, look at Center Street and look at Federal. On the Federal side where those little, low-line shops are kind of across from the Athenaeum, those have all got, 100-watt floodlights on the signs, and we've talked about it many, many times, and yet it just happens. So I would just encourage us to keep an eye on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, it's an enforcement thing, I mean, if they're not meeting the lighting guidelines, I mean, I think we write them up. I send them a letter, say, hey, you got your voltage is too high, or show us that you would comply or whatever. But just like an illegal sign, it's an illegal.
Yeah,
light.
yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just be diligent about sending in the notices to Billy, and hopefully we can attack these things one at a time and keep everybody in compliance. Attack is not the right word. Address these things one at a time. Okay. would anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, great, Paul
Aye.
and Ben,
Aye.
Kevin.
All right,
All right, thank you. Thanks, Esmeralda.
Thank you all.
thank you all.
Everybody.
Bye.